Stormywriter here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you an extract from the wonderful Bloodbound. So, just to recap, in case you can't remember or you're new to this, the people that I'm going to mention during this kind of excerpt is going to be Brian, who is Pandora's uncle. There's going to be Roger, who is Pandora's father and Brian's brother. And then we have Claude, new introduction to Claude. Claude is Brian's partner. This, as you know before, all the excerpts are from diaries. This particular one is the 21st of September. This looks at kind of magical elements. So, as I've mentioned before, I am a pagan, or Wiccan to be more exact. And sometimes I use elements of that in not only my writing, but my poetry as well. This is specifically looking at a protection rite. There are the rite itself and the elements it's used are true elements. These are things that are considered part of protection spells and that. Some of the words, though, are my own. Some people would argue that to do true magic, you have to create your own words. So this is the looking at a protection spell, as well as other things, of course. All's quiet on the vampire front, and this has made Brian very nervous. He is becoming more and more obsessed with the magical side of things, and today is some equinox thingy, and he had me, himself, and Claude do some strange ritual thing in the garden. Luckily for us, there is no neighbours peering over us at the fence. Poor Claude, he looked so very uncomfortable. He does not like this magic thing at all. He kept muttering that it was something that strong man wouldn't have used such things. Also, several times Brian called Claude Roger. The fact that Claude reacted as if his own name had been called indicated that this was not something new. It pained me to hear that name, as it was a reminder that my wonderful dad was no longer around. I had to really apply some persuasion to get him out of him that Brian had been calling him Roger since Dad had died. Had that really been 9 weeks ago? Once in a while, and then he'd correct himself straight away, but now he does not notice, and he does it, and he calls Claude his dead brother's name more often than not. Although there's no physical resemblance between the two. In fact, it seems Brian is having nightmares, and it often ends with him shouting out Dad's name. I wonder what Freud would have made of those dreams. Clearly, all the lost years without reconciliation is playing on Brian's subconscious. It is always hardest to forgive the things that you do not do than the things that you do. A cliché, but a true one nevertheless. I was an only child, so I do not truly understand the bond between siblings. But even if you do not see eye to eye, you must still miss them once they are gone. It is those fleeting moments that I wished I had a sibling to enjoy moments with and cry over the pain of life. Maybe it is annoying that you will never get all the back that's lost. It's only much later that I realised that I'd not only spoken my thoughts, but I'd made someone reveal their own secrets. Anyway, just after the ritual, I was noticing for the first time the changes in the two. Brian had lost a lot of weight. In fact, apart from the height, he was starting to resemble Dad. Things were also clearly affecting Claude. He was very pale. His skin looked waxy, and he had huge dark patches under his eyes, like he'd not slept for weeks. While they were tidying up, I thought I would pop to the bathroom to see if I had changed at all. It was weird returning to the bathroom. It was the first time that I'd been back there since souring away the shame. Time seems to have become very weird since Dad had died. I thought I would feel like a victim returning to the scene of a crime. I did not at all. Neither was I shocked at the face that was staring back at me in the window. I looked healthy. Pride stopped me saying it, but someone else might have called me pretty. My skin had a sheen to it. It looked like the hair in those adverts, you know, the ones where you're worth it. My skin was glowing. It looked like I was wearing makeup, but I was not. Could never be bothered. Even that slightly wobble of a double chin had disappeared. The thing that really stood out for me was my eyes. They'd always been grey, a dull shade of grey, similar to dishwater. My eyes were still grey, but they were shining, as they were made of glitter. But around the outer edge of the iris, there was a dark circle outline, which I'd never noticed before. Anyway, the ritual itself, and we're not going to all the ins and outs of the process, it will take a lifetime. The ritual itself felt like a lifetime. I know for someone who believes in this, rituals must be amazing. For me, they were a burden. We had to place a bowl of earth at the back door and say some words over it. Something about the earth being the symbol of security and stability, and it brings peace and harmony to the home. This makes some sort of sense when you think about the solid ground beneath our feet. Something about grounding and protecting me, and then we had to visualize the energy protecting us, etc. And then we went round the garden and drove nails into the ground. And that was all the instructions I was given. Claude looked like a little lost sheep, randomly driving nails into the ground. I'm sure I did not look much better. But Brian was pacing about the place as if he had purpose, like he was tapping into something that we could not sense. Then we had to bring the earth to the middle of the garden and then light a brown candle and say some more words about dark and light being equal, and that balance and harmony and security being ours. We had to stay in the garden until the candle burnt out, and this gave Brian plenty of time to quiz me about anything and everything. Anyway, eventually I returned home, tired and weary, and I could not open the door. It was as if someone was holding the lock so it could not be opened. I thought I could hear childish laughter. I banged the door loudly. I was not in the mood for this. I pushed and I shoved the door, rattled the key in the lock. My temper was flaring, and then if by magic, the door opened on its own. I stomped in, threw my kit onto the floor, scaring Poe. He hissed at me and fled out the cat flap. Seeing Poe so frightened brought me to my senses. I had never experienced anger like this before, mainly because I was never allowed to feel emotions. But as oddly as it sounded, it seemed like a pure evil, a cleansing feeling, as if it had a purpose. I thought about Brian's rage a little while ago. God, those days and nights are merging into one. And he seemed the total opposite. His felt like a dirty rage, that it was directionless, as if I was the fire and Brian was the water. Maybe I'm losing my mind. I still look at the lock and couldn't find anything wrong with it, so I just let it alone. So there's a little insert into what happens in regards to Pandora and her eternal battle of fighting those vampiric evils. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, leave some comments in the box below.